serious and talk about the Bears because this is a serious day, David Haugh, and you were there at Halas Hall. You heard from Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. Paint the picture for us. What was it like?
I think you went in with high expectations and hopes that they would provide some clarity. And I think there was some hope that they would provide a little bit more direction. And I think if you went in thinking that you wanted to feel better about the entire operation, you left disappointed because it wasn't that. I think the Bears have been doing this a very long time. This was the first time in their history that they had fired a coach in season. And for doing something for the first time in their history, I expected a deeper explanation. I expected more transparency. I can't get over. I've been going to these press conferences for 21 years at Halas Hall. And you walk in and you think, they are experienced in dealing with crises. You would think they would be better at managing them. And yet you had a day like today, which was incomplete. It was 20 minutes. They cut it off. There was a lot of tentativeness. There was a lot of tension, and there was not much. You didn't have a great feeling about the direction of the coaching search after hearing from Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. 8 minutes of Kevin Warren with a filibuster as an opening statement, 2 minutes from Ryan Poles, and 10 minutes of questions. You needed more. You left wanting more.
Let's hear some of it, shall we? Let's kick off our opening drive, brought to you by Chevy. This is our first down.
It will be an exhaustive search. It will be organized. It will be diligent. We will do it the right way. We will get this right. And we'll be sitting up here in the future, some point in time, and we'll look back onto this day and say this was the day that we start pointing in the right direction to build the franchise that all of us know that we want to build.
There you heard from Bears president and CEO Kevin Warren, David. And if you ask me, I obviously wasn't there today, but I did watch it and I listened to it multiple times. It was very scripted. Yeah. It was very political. It was like I was listening to a politician read a teleprompter.
When you go into something like this and you are a Bears fan, or maybe you cover the team, whatever the case is, when you hear from Kevin Warren, I think that you wanted to hear them speaking from the heart instead of reading from a script. And that's easy to tell. I'm not saying that they were, and I'm sure that he was passionate and believed everything that he said with conviction. But as he spoke as if he were reading from prepared comments. And I think that's fine. You need to go in prepared. But it didn't seem impromptu. It was a striking contrast. We'll get to Thomas Brown later. But he spoke from the heart, and he did a very good job, much in contrast to the way that Kevin Warren and I think Ryan Poles, who was a meeker version of any general manager that we've seen since he took over. I wasn't sure if Ryan Poles had been on the job 3 days or 3 years, because that's how he just seemed today, timid, not really a strong presence there. And it was really alarming to some degree, because these are the guys that now have to go out and find the next head coach. This is the most important hire they've made in a very long time. More important than the last one, because now they have a quarterback in Caleb Williams, and you don't want to ruin – you cannot squander this opportunity, and it's still a big one for the next head coach of the Chicago Bears, whoever it may be.
And as you mentioned, I don't think anyone really left hearing from them and feeling any better or any more confident that the Bears are going to get this right. It just didn't feel like there was a ton of authenticity coming from either Kevin Warren or Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles, to me, just felt sad, worn down. And listen, this is a guy that went and championed Matt Eberflus twice. Right? And they've got
once when they hired him, and once when they retained him last year. And you could make the argument, you understand hiring him. You still don't understand bringing him back last January.
And this is a person that's built a very strong relationship with Matt Eberflus. And I know Ryan Poles touched on that today, but you can't talk about how hard it is to fire your friend, right? And I think that was what I got from Ryan Poles today, is that he was heartbroken.
He did come across that way. They had one job today: restore confidence and instill faith in the process. And all they did was leave people with more doubt. That's not a successful press conference.
All right, so about that process, right? Who's going to lead it? Is it going to be Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles? Are they going to do it together? Here's what the Bears brass had to say.
We'll work that out. Yes, and again, Ryan he's a general manager. He's head of football operations. And so he would have the final say if it ever got to that point. But I'm confident that we will work through it, because the good thing about it, so long as we keep the center of our decisions what's in the best interest of the Chicago Bears, our players, as we go forward, it will become clear as far as who is the person should lead this franchise from a football standpoint, from a coaching standpoint.
Okay, that's fair, but I also think it was very clear because Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles, who did the offensive coordinator search, were allegedly aligned, and Shane Waldron, it was the only candidate that they brought back to Halas Hall to have a second interview. They were aligned there. It was the center of their decision. What gives you the confidence that they're going to be aligned and that there is not going to be a need for a final say?
Not because he just said so. I think the one thing you did leave Halas Hall today with no ambiguity about, Kevin Warren is leading this. Kevin Warren will say who stays, who goes, who meets the criteria, who doesn't. And Ryan Poles certainly will handle what a general manager should be able to handle. He's got the contacts. He's going to he's going to express the football vision. I understand some things that, a general manager can express. He's the football guy and the team president really isn't. And so that, I think they will be collaborative, but there is no doubt who is running this show, and there's no doubt who is at the top of this hierarchy with the Chicago Bears.
For the first time, it really felt like Kevin Warren was inserting himself into the football, right?
Ruthie, he started with an 8-minute monologue. You don't do that if you are collaborative, if you are an equal partner with the man sitting next to you, whoever he was. Was that Ryan Poles today? It was hard to recognize him at times. So, no, there was no doubt who's running the show.
It's interesting because this was also something that we'll get to in more depth, but with the Shane Waldron hire, Ryan Poles was asked what went wrong in the Shane Waldron hire. He had no prepared answer. There was a very long, pregnant pause. We're not going to play that for you today, but how are you not prepared for that answer, David Haugh?
Well, I think it was awkward, and I think that he might have been prepared for it, but he wanted to be careful with how he expressed himself. And to me, that just spoke to just how careful everything was. It was paint by numbers, and it was, very, very deliberate. There was nothing, again, from the heart. It was off a script. And that answer to that question, very simple question, they fired Shane Waldron a couple weeks ago. And I just think that Ryan Poles' hesitation there spoke volumes.
On our third down of this opening drive, one of the large places to put some criticism in the way that things have transpired since Thanksgiving was the way that Matt Eberflus was relieved of his duties, having to do the 9 a.m. press conference only to be fired only a couple of hours later. The Bears brass commenting on that today as well.
I can tell you this, when Coach Eberflus had his press conference, we had not made a final decision. And I think you know me, I think you know Ryan, I think you know George McCaskey, and I think you know the McCaskey family. If one thing we stand for is family and integrity and doing it the right way. In retrospect, could we have done it better? Absolutely. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand, yes. But during his press conference and even a couple hours later, we had not reached a decision.
Is that an acceptable answer?
No, it's not. If you had not reached a decision, if you had not made your minds up, you delay the press conference until you make your minds up. Because everybody in America on Thanksgiving Day watching that game unfold knew what was going to happen next. This was inevitable. So you knew that was going to be a possibility. Until that possibility was removed, you did not need to let him face the media. You humiliated a man. That was not in the family values of the McCaskies and how you do business. That was a disservice to Matt Eberflus. So I think that was not an acceptable explanation today from Kevin Warren. They should have waited. They should have known. They were oblivious.
There was a comment made about not wanting to do it on Thanksgiving. Sure, go be with your families. Kevin Warren, you're allegedly up at 4 a.m. washing your car. Maybe you can go and have a meeting at 5 a.m. so that Matt Eberflus doesn't have to go out in front of the media and answer questions about his job security at 9 a.m. next time. Let's move on to our fourth down of this opening drive real quickly, David. I mean, you talked about the stark contrast between that press conference and the Thomas Brown press conference. Let's take a listen to what the interim head coach said today.
Our identity as a football team. I said this initially, always believe in and stand by it. Football is a violent game. It rewards those that play the game violently. So physical at every position is going to be our mentality. That starts this week against San Fran to kind of prize themselves and built a great job throughout the years of building a roster that kind of fits that mode, of being aggressive in all phases, of kind of a attacking mentality. So it starts there for us. That's a non-negotiable.
David, I don't know about you, but I did not get the sense from Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles that they were really going to consider Thomas Brown as a candidate Take a listen to that man.
I loved it.
It was awesome.
When he talked about violence, when he talked about football, when he talked that way, that was his Dan Campbell moment. That was a guy who is going to embrace this opportunity. He's got 5 games. I would not count him out. I don't know if it would be unorthodox. It might be unusual. They might be settling, but give him a chance. This guy talked about coachability, accountability, dependability. He's got all the mantras. He's plugged in. Man, if you don't want to play for him, then you're not a football player. You understand energy and enthusiasm and charisma, and he brings it all.
You talked about this off camera, but I thought you said it perfectly. The GM and the president talked to us. Thomas Brown talked with us.
Yes, he did. Everything was conversational. Everything was comfortable. He has an air of confidence. I'm not going to say he has an aura. I'm not Caleb Williams. But the guy does connect, and that's powerful.